Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Laing. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Laing.
Welcome to Finding Certainty, our favorite day of the week. But it's Finding Certainty. I look forward to this all week because I get to meet with fascinating guests. The first Friday of every month, I get to do a monologue, where, as you know, if you've been listening, I'm going through the alphabet. I started with accountability. Last month was H is for humility. And basically addressing and dissecting different principles that I believe contribute to this topic of certainty. Coming up next week, I is for, well, I'm not going to tell you. You have to show up to find out, but it's going to be a good one. And I believe it is integral to creating more certainty in your life and in your business. Very excited about our guest today. James Harrison is the founder and CEO of a company in American Fork, Utah, named Invisis. James, thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Well, our pleasure. You know, on our show here, we have different guests who either demonstrate, illustrate, are experts on, or have figured out ways to add to the certainty in our lives. But I don't know if I've ever had a guest who was a better example of that than you. And if I may be so bold as to say, we've had lots of guests here on the show, and yet what you are doing creates certainty for people in ways that literally I think every person out there is concerned about. A little bit of background: James owns a company, as I said, named Invisis, and their company is focused on protecting us and our families and our businesses from those digital threats out there, whether it's identity theft, threat to our technology, our devices, even our children on their video games and internet browsing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, our finances. We are being beset by internet predators, identity thieves, and and so forth and so on. The list goes on and on and on. And James, I know we're going to talk about this today, but we are being beset and attacked from all directions. If you're not worried about that, I guess it's because you have your head in the sand and you don't understand how dangerous and how frequent these attacks are and how devastating they can be. So this is why I'm excited about having James on, besides the fact he's a great guy. He's a successful founder and CEO of a company. He's owned several over the years and been involved in several different projects. But through it all, he came to determine that this was the area where he could most make an impact, and not just for a small handful of people, but for millions across America. So again, James, thank you for being here. I always start the show out by sharing two main reasons why I've invited this guest. And the first is that James, as I've said, is developing and heading up a company that is addressing this risk, this element of uncertainty that we all deal with in our lives and in our businesses. The other reason I wanted to invite him is because not only is he addressing this concern or this worry for so many of us, but he's doing it in a way that is unique. There's a lot of competition out there in this space. I mean, I won't necessarily mention the names, but we all know those companies out there that advertise for identity theft, advertise for protecting our computers and our devices and our children against pornography, and the list goes on and on and on. But what's unique about James and his company is they are combining all of those protections into one. And they're doing it in some unique ways that we'll talk about during the show today. So we always start out by going a little bit down memory lane. So James, maybe just tell us where you're from and how'd you end up where you are? I know we got to pack in about what I'm guessing 50 years or so into this story in the next couple of minutes, but just tell us where you're from and a little bit about maybe your family and What
You
got you to
betcha.
where you are today?
I'd love to start with that. I'm a family man. I'm from Michigan originally, transplanted to Utah a couple of decades ago before I started this company, actually. But I'm a big Michigan Wolverines fan. My boys I've raised right is a Big Ten fan and a Michigan Wolverine fan. We really enjoy sports in our home. We enjoy entertainment. We enjoy time being together. Family is really at the center of my life outside of my profession. I have hobbies, of course, but hobbies always seem to take a backseat to family and to your work, right? I'm no different
Right.
than any other entrepreneur or business owner out there, or CEO of a company. It's a balancing act. But
100%.
when I
How
get
many
up every
children?
day,
How many children do you have?
I have 4. Yep.
Okay.
So the youngest just graduated high school and has been out for a couple of years, looking for his next steps in life. And so I'm
Nice.
almost empty nester, but not quite. My wife doesn't like that too much. She loves our kids and doesn't want them to leave the nest. And I'm like, no, it's time. You need to be successful. Let's help you get out of the nest. It's that time
That's
of my
right.
life anyway.
And you say to your wife, "You've done a good job. Let them go."
That's right. That's right.
Right. That's
Yep.
great. So
Yep.
you were saying,
So-
I cut you off though.
Well, that work-life balance is really important. I think it's a big part of my life. And there was a decision I made years ago when I was doing those 12 to 16-hour days, building this company from the ground up. And there came a point when my boys and my daughter, started getting old enough where I needed to be at a dance recital. I needed to be at a soccer game or at a football game or a basketball game. And I had a hard choice to make to balance my life better. And I don't regret that choice. My company has still succeeded and done wonderful things. The world has been good to us, and believe we've been good to the world. So the lesson I learned from that is, when I was young, I wanted to be the top dog. I wanted to conquer mountains. I wanted to do everything that nobody else could do. And I had that fire inside me. And then I became a family man, and I learned, and I'm like, this is what's important. But that's what really drove me in the creation of this company is this whole side of the world that's digital. I became good at being a dad and being there for my kids, but there was this glaring hole. And that, as my kids were growing up, the whole digital world was unfolding before us. And I learned real quickly that I needed to be more proactive. And I'll tell you just real briefly, if you want, why I started this company in Vissus, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, let me just interject one thing. I have 5 children myself. My youngest is 18, oldest is 26. We had 4 teenagers at once. And you talk about being a family man, whether you have 1 child, 10 children, I think we all have the same worries, right? We all have the same concerns and desires to protect our family, to protect our kids. We want to give them freedom to be a part of the world without being damaged by the world, right? Without being hurt by the world. And there are so many, as I said at the beginning, there's so many forces that are trying to hurt them, trying to take advantage, trying to really hurt so much of what is important in our lives, our families, our finances, our identity, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you talk about how your paradigm shifted a little bit, we've all guy and I was a workaholic and yet when I became a dad and my priorities started to shift, and they continue to, it's a constant balancing act between work and family. And it's a constant, I think, worry, constant cloud hanging over us, a little bit of uncertainty and not knowing what to do about it. I think that's the worst part of it all, is that we know it's there. We're not stupid, but where do we start, right? Especially with so many different offers and so many different companies. And just recently we heard that one of the largest in America, their information is on the dark web now. And so anyway, it's I'm just preaching to the choir, I know, but it's a big concern.
Yeah, absolutely. My journey was not in cybersecurity or protection as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. I have a finance background, but one of my companies was hammered by hackers all around the world, from Russia and China and Israel and several state university libraries here in the United States, anonymous hacks into my company. And I learned real quick that I didn't have a first clue what I was doing as a business owner around this discipline of being cyber safe, right? But that led me down this journey of investigation, like how did this happen and why was I not prepared? Back then it was about business, but as you know, I go back 2 decades in this space, and I've become since one of the leading voices and experts in business cybersecurity and personal and home and family cyber defense. And I've done it because it's become a passion of mine, but also because I saw a dire need for it, not only with my own business that was attacked and taken down literally, but my children, as they embraced the digital age, as they started to grow up in the mid 2000s to the 2010s, when they got their first phones, when they got their first social media account, when I jumped on LinkedIn, when I jumped on Facebook, I started seeing scary things that the average person maybe not notices because I'm hyper focused on security and privacy and other things. But it really made me think, what can I do to protect myself and my kids? And then as a byproduct, how do I share that? How do I help other people? Because I knew the risks and I knew few people knew what to do about it. So it led me down this journey of discovery. And we really have had a lot of success in helping business owners and businesses, kind of tighten up and protect as time has gone on. But we've really kind of specialized in the home and family because business owners are also family members. They're, they either have kids, grandkids, or cousins or whatever, but everybody knows somebody who you care enough about that you wish you could do something to help protect them. And I have a unique perspective, Patrick, because I watched the digital age unfold in my career. Hacking was not about
Yes, you did.
money or predators or whatever. It was about ego hacking was what we called it. It's like, oh, I could deface this website. I could break into the Pentagon just because there wasn't any other nefarious activity other than, ooh, look what I could do. Ooh, beat my chest.
Right. Bragging rights, right?
Yeah, but that changed. That changed, and it quickly moved over to, oh my goodness, the dark web is full of predators, scammers, people who want my money. They'll use me, and they'll take advantage of everything they can. And I watched that transition happen. And so we've evolved as a company, knowing what's coming, knowing where we've been, and then building solutions to solve those problems.
Well, isn't it interesting how many great companies out there started with a need and they figured out a solution, right? They were trying to address that need, find a need and fill it, as they say.
Yeah.
Our company came about because I've been in sales for almost 40 years, and I worked for several companies over the years, and there were always things I liked and things I didn't like. And I said, why don't we just create one company that has the things we like and none of the things we don't like, right? That doesn't mean we're perfect, but
yeah,
we created Certainty Management because we wanted to fill that need and create that opportunity for sales professionals who, like us, were faith-based and family-focused, and we're worth.
And I love that.
Their salt.
Certainty is a power word. It's an empowering word. Certainty. There's so much of life that is not certain at this point. I just happen to specialize in the whole digital side of this.
Right. Well, we did a search on Google just several months ago. We had an author on, and she was talking about how to publish her book. And she just, while we were online, Googled the word certainty, and there were thousands of hits just in the last 24 hours, and thousands of appearances in media and on blogs and news agencies and so forth.
Yeah.
But then she searched the word uncertainty, and there were tens of thousands of hits. Even hundreds of thousands of hits just in the last 24 hours. It was surprising. I was even surprised to see how much activity, and there's a lot more people worried about uncertainty than thinking about certainty. It's our fears and our worries that keep us up at night, right? Yeah. That are weighing on us and our families and threatening our children and our businesses and so forth. So tell us a little bit about Invisis and how it came into being. You had this Yeah, you were transitioning and maturing as a business owner, and you saw this need and set out to fill it.
This literally was what you just said, Patrick. I built it out of need. I needed to figure out a way to protect my business to start with. And when I realized there weren't any good solutions, there wasn't a good small business solution for me, I had to build it myself. And I couldn't rely on any of the people who were experts in technology or cybersecurity because they weren't good enough yet. It was emerging. So I really put the entrepreneurial hat on and said, well, let me go solve this problem. And I met with the experts and developed software and solutions and services and spent my time building that. But about 5 years into my journey in that regard is when I realized the family was at risk. It dawned on me, hey, Facebook is launching. Hey, all these social media, the world is changing.
Every kid has a cell phone.
Frontier opening. So I moved and I shifted and I added a whole new discipline to the company. And it was out of need. It was out of necessity, right? My kids I needed to protect. I had a daughter go through early on bullying through social media and through text messages when cell phones started with text messages. And I was hyper aware of this stuff because it was my business. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow, this is going to get big. This is going to be a problem. And I wasn't wrong. It's become a massive problem. And so Invisis is Latin for invisible. That's what the word means. And we chose that name. I chose that name because I wanted to be invisible from the bad guys on the internet. I wanted to be able to leverage the beauty of technology and the internet and empower myself to be great with that without the risk. So I wanted to be invisible, and I wanted my kids to be invisible from the bad guys. I didn't want predators, tracking my kids. So Invisis became a real simple way for me to say, here's my mission. Let's help people stay safe and be protected.
I love that. As you know, I'm a veteran, a U.S. Army veteran. I worked in counterintelligence and counterterrorism. And one of the first things you learn is if you reveal your hand, you're much less likely to be able to do your job. Right? You are, it's counterintelligence. It's listening or observing or following without being detected. It's a very important piece of counterterrorism. I was just watching an episode of Blue Bloods the other night. I love, Tom Selleck and the whole New York cop family story. And and he was meeting with this terrorism task force, I guess. I think they were from Ireland, and they wanted to come in and observe what they were doing in New York for counterterrorism. And he let them see a little, but most of it, he said, we just can't do it. He said, if we reveal what we're doing to combat it, we are much less likely to be able to do so. And so I thought I love your name for that. It made me think about that.
It set us down this path of discovery. And honestly, our space grows so fast. The threats change so rapidly, and the responses to those threats change so rapidly that you're never in a dull moment, and you're always changing. But the idea of protecting your privacy and other things, staying invisible, is as tried and true today as I think it will be 100 years from now. So what happened, what was interesting is as I aged and matured as a family man, and as my business matured, I'm into this 2 decades plus now. And I've asked myself the question, and I asked my team the question, what legacy do we want to leave on the world? We've been at this for a long time. I've had my key management team with me for 20 of those 22 years that are still with us. What do we want to do to leave a legacy on the world? And our heartstrings and our consciousness went, and our spirits went to protecting the family, protecting kids, protecting grandparents and parents, empowering people to do something about this. And if we could leave a legacy, our team agreed this was the legacy we would want to leave. Help protect and save as many families as we possibly can before we retire, before we hand the reins off to somebody else. So that's become my personal mission and the mission of the company, and I've directed all of our resources towards that end now. And iDefend is the flagship product, the embodiment of that mission and that vision. And it's taken us a while to put together what we feel would be most helpful and most beneficial to the average family. And we're super proud of it. We're groundbreaking new things, and we believe that we're going to make a difference.
It's extraordinary.
Go ahead.
Well, you touched on this earlier. You touched on this a few minutes ago, but if we are not focused on protecting our family, everything else is at risk, right? If you have employees that have had their identity theft stolen, or their finances hacked, or something like that, they're not going to be very focused at work. They're not going to be very productive. They're going to be dealing with anxiety and depression and all these other things. And so there's a ripple effect. And I believe it does start with the family, right? We see it if somebody's going through marital trouble and going through a divorce. I mean, it 100% impacts everything else. And so if you can protect the family first, I think it's a really important starting point, and that has ramifications elsewhere. We were talking just last week about how our seniors are at risk. I have a very good friend, he's in his 80s, who called me and asked me about this this email he got. It was from Jeff Bezos's widow, who was giving out billions of dollars, and he was on a list, right? He'd been selected, and he said, "Should I trust this?" I said, "No, 100% don't." Right? Yeah. But our seniors and our children, it's like the two ends of the spectrum, are most vulnerable, and I think it's because they're most trusting, right? They're most indefensible. Yeah. We have to defend them. And that's so right. I was very excited to see what you guys were doing, and would love to get into a little bit more of what it is and how it works. But maybe let's just do that. Let's talk about what is iDefend exactly. I know it covers several areas. I do believe
you betcha.
Family is the core. But
you have a break coming up here in a few minutes. Maybe I can take just a few moments before the break and get into this. This is going to take a little bit more time, because I'm going to talk to you about 4 or 5 key areas that we know are the center point of attack for people, and where our biggest risks, where our biggest nightmares and worries are going to come from in the digital age.
Yeah. Before we go there, James, do you mind sharing some statistics about the industry? I know you have them.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't like to do too much, talk about fears and the scary stuff, but honestly, most people don't really know what's happening. And a little bit of education is a great thing. And if that education motivates you to action, that's the whole point. Understanding 100%. What the threats are, and then you decide, should I be doing something different than I am now? Do I need to take other actions? But there are 4 or 5 key areas. I'm going to talk about those briefly, and I'll give you some statistics that are kind of mind-shattering. But if I were in your shoes, and anybody listening or watching, there's really 4 key areas we think these attacks are coming and will continue to expand and grow. And the first is the threat to our privacy. Privacy is under attack like no other, and I'll talk about that. The second is the threat to your money. People want to steal everything you've got, right? It's the digital age. Crime is not breaking into banks. It's about breaking into bank accounts online and stealing your investments and other things, right? So money is under attack. Privacy is under attack. Then you have the family under attack, kids in particular. And we need to talk about family safety and kids safety. And then device safety is another area that you got to worry about. But behind all of those, there's a couple of other things that I want to touch on before we end today with this interview and this discussion. One is mental health and the toll that it's taking on people. And then finally, AI and where we're going. And I think that that's a really important discussion. We may not have a lot of time to talk about that, but let me just touch base briefly on the privacy side of this and then work our way through that. What I'm talking about specifically about privacy is the exposure of our personal information, whether that's on the dark web or whether that's to an advertiser or a marketer. But you had mentioned the National Public Data breach. That was the largest data breach in U.S. history. 3 million records or so were compromised in that breach and are now on the dark web. That whole file was sold for $3.5 million to a hacker group on the dark web. It's all verified, and we have the evidence of all that now. This happened back in April, and it just came to light just a few weeks ago. Virtually every single one of us had our information involved in that breach. So that is social security number, date of birth, address, email, phone, that core set of data. And I'm not talking about adults. I'm talking about kids too, even newborns.
Wow. Scary.
Yeah, that was a big deal. And in my world, it was another day at the office. To
Now,
the rest
James,
of the
you
world,
said
it wasn't.
You said 3 million, James. I think
3
you
billion.
Okay, 3 billion. Yeah, with a
3
B.
billion. Yeah, with a B.
Okay.
Yeah, 2.9 some billion records were stolen, and it's
Incredible.
each one of those files is our personal data in one form or another. So it was massive. As the world moves into the digital age, data is centered. It's centralized. It's centralized into these giant warehouses of computers. The cloud is not in the cloud. The cloud is in a data center in a cornfield in Iowa. And, that's where our data is hosted and stored. And the more data is gathered about us, the more at risk we become. But that data breach kind of brought to light in the headlines, oh, yeah, our data is at risk. Our privacy is at risk. So using that as a launch point, 100% of us have our personal information exposed in one form or another. There's no way around it at this point. The question is, what is the bad guy going to do with it? When do they actually attack and launch their attacks against us? And, we just never know. It's just our lucky day, and all of a sudden we're attacked or our kids are attacked. But the privacy issue goes way beyond data breaches. And I'll just expose a couple of other things. Social media itself literally is an incubator for big tech to learn about us. Watch every click, every ad we look at. They know everything about us pretty much. The profiles that social media companies make about their customer is their asset. So we are the product. If it's free, you're the product. And so that's kind of the way that works. Whether you like it or not, they are tracking everything we do. They're learning everything about us, our likes, our dislikes, who our family members are, where we work, where we go to school, who our favorite friends are. They know it all.
Everything.
And they know which ads catch your attention. And so you're the product.
We are up against our break, but I heard recently, for example, to this point, that Tesla is one of the largest data collectors in the world. And think about it. They know where you drove, how long you were there.
That's right.
What you stopped at, how fast you drove, the music you listened to. They're collecting data the entire time, and every entire time you're driving it, which is enough reason for me not to ever buy a Tesla. But that's another story. But we are up against our break. But we're visiting with James Harrison. He's the CEO of Invisis. Which, again, I love your name, James. When we come back, we're going to talk about the other areas of risk. Yeah. We talked a little bit about privacy. Don't go away. We'll be right back here on Finding Certainty.
Follow Voice America at facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options. Even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click register at the top right.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty. We were talking on the break. James Harrison and he's the CEO of Invisus, if you're just joining us, but we were talking about how when we were younger, life was so much simpler. I think it was even safer in many respects. I was talking about the first trip I took to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and my mom said, just, don't talk to strangers. But today, our kids are talking to strangers. They're talking to people across the country and around the world, and they're chatting with them late at night. And we think, well, how do we combat this? How do we protect our children, our families, our finances, our identity? How do we start? Because I think we all would agree that we know that it's a risk. I think we're becoming more and more aware of that risk. But again, where do we start?
Yeah. With the privacy discussion that we were having, there are some things you should be doing right now to safeguard your privacy. If you don't want your Alexa device listening to everything you're saying, there's things you should be doing, right? If you don't want your phone to be tracking everything you're doing, there are some things. So the quick list is, number one, we recommend removing your information from data broker sites, people search sites. There is a breadbasket of companies out there that are buying and selling your data for marketing purposes, targeted ad spending and whatnot. Get your information off the web. There are services to do that, including that's something that we do, but getting yourself anonymous on data broker or data trafficker sites is one of the big things you can do. Another key recommendation is to evaluate your social media presence, evaluate what information you're exposing about yourself online, because everything you have there is being captured and gathered and collected. Go through and make sure that you're not having unnecessary personal information there. You also want to change your device privacy settings. Go ahead, Patrick. Yep.
To that point, I just had a quick question before I forget. I've thought about just deleting my Facebook profile. I do a poor job of updating it anyway, so you're getting an update from me about once every 6 months. But I've thought about, and it's a question for you as an expert, should I just get rid of it, right? Take it down.
You can. That depends on what you use it for. It isn't the best business tool unless you're using it as a marketing platform. But on a personal level, most people are using it just to stay connected with friends and family and keep everybody updated. If that's not the way you like to keep everybody updated on your life, then there's not a lot of purpose in having it. If you're going to maintain the account just for what if somebody needs to connect that way, strip out most of your personal information that you have on there. And when you post something, don't post pictures of, hey, I'm in Cancun. My house is wide open. You can come and rob me. Wait till you get home to post your pictures. Right.
Yeah, I don't do a lot. I don't do a lot of that. I'm not a very good social media person, so
I don't use Facebook hardly at all.
But
I use LinkedIn. I'll use X. I'll use other platforms, and every one of those has privacy settings in there that you should go through and set up. And if you don't know how to do that, then find an expert who does know how to do that. Again, that's what our company does. So we help
one of the things
our clients every day go through and get yourself all set up with your privacy settings, your device settings, all those platform settings. Those are big things, including your internet browsers, right? Which browser should you be using? So when you're on the web, who's tracking what and how? Well, you should have the proper browsers and the proper browser settings. There's a laundry list literally of things that you should be doing. I'm just giving you the highlights. But if you do these basic things, either become an expert and do it yourself or find an expert and have them help you with it. But you can privatize yourself. You can almost get off the digital grid in a way if you wanted to with these types of practices.
Well, I want to come back to some of the other ways you're protecting your clients, but I want to make one plug for Invisus at this point, because one of the unique things about your company is that you don't just set up the platform, have people log on, become a member, and then say good luck, right? You
exactly
and your team walk a person through. You have real people. It's not just AI. It's not a call center overseas. Nothing against them, but you're a U.S. company. You have English-speaking customer service. You have onboarding teams that help people get all of this set up. They're not just having to go off of a YouTube instructional video. I mean, there's a real person that's walking them through this process, right?
Yes, absolutely. And here's the reason why that's really important. When we talk to customers or potential customers, we ask them, hey, are you aware of all these threats that are out there? Virtually all of them say, yeah, I know there's a lot of bad stuff. My kids are at risk, my money, my identity. Everybody kind of gets it. They don't know how bad it really is, but they kind of get it. And so I ask a question. It's like, well, what are you doing about it? And a lot of them are just like, I got something on my computer, I think, and I bought this ID theft thing, and I think I'm okay. But I said, but I'll ask somebody, like, do you know everything you should be doing? And most people will say, no, I really don't. The biggest gap is that education gap. I don't know what to do. What is the best technology? What should I be monitoring? What settings are the right settings? Nobody really has a good handle on all of the various things. So people inevitably always say, I don't even know where to start. I want to do something, but I don't know where to start. And the second thing that they tell us is, I don't have the time to be the expert. I don't have the time to manage all this stuff. I don't even have the time to install it and configure it and set it all up. Well, we build our entire service around that idea of, well, if people are having a hard time being the expert and finding the time to do this, we'll do it for you. And so we built this concierge level service that we feel is going to be the essential way of doing this going forward. It's having experts do it for you. And we believe every home needs to have a cybersecurity expertise company, a service provider that just does this for you. They know you, they know your needs, they know what's the problems you worry about, and they solve the problems, and they do it through what we do. We're the only company we know of that does this. I think it's a higher cost model to deliver this, but it's the only way we see to do this, where we actually make a difference and we make sure people are safe and they don't have to worry about time or expertise. So it's done intentionally. This is not something accidental. It's done with intent to do it the way we're doing it.
I would agree with you. I don't think it can be done with just an instructional manual, an AI bot or something like that. It's not possible. Our entire business is built on the fact that people need experts. That I didn't put in my own sprinkler system. I didn't finish my own basement. I don't do my own taxes. I mean, we did millions of dollars in recovery. They needed someone who was expert at tax credit recovery if they wanted to receive the full refund available. A lot of people tried to do it on their own. Some even had their accountant do it, but that was like going to your general practitioner and asking them to perform brain surgery for you.
That's right.
You might get a result, but you might not be very happy with that result, right?
Absolutely. And that applies to your money too, right? You have people help you manage your money and invest your money, but who do you have protecting your money? Who do you have protecting your privacy, right? Yeah, everybody needs experts in this space now. When it comes to your money, though, Patrick, literally, if you don't have the right monitoring in place, not just of the dark web, but your bank accounts, your crypto accounts, if you don't have the right monitoring of your credit in place and alerts aren't coming to you, you're at risk. But it goes way beyond that. Passwords for your accounts and your online accounts, how are you managing that so that if somebody does get into one device, they're not getting to everything you own, right? There's strategies and there's monitoring and there's layers of protection, and those should all be in place to protect your money. And literally at this point, you have to have experts kind of guiding you and showing you, and it changes so fast, you could never keep up with it on your own. So it really is essential now that you have a team of experts you trust who kind of do it all for you, give you everything you need, and then answer and resolve problems when you have that problem. So there are real threats to your money and your identity and your credit and your investments, but you can do something about that. You can get all the right tools and support needed to protect you that way too.
Well, that's the best part of it all, is that while you may not know where to start, when you bring in an expert like you and your team, you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to take the hours and hours to try to figure it out on your own, probably not do it right in the long run, and leave yourself exposed. Yeah. I love the fact that we are busy, right? All of us are. We don't have time to learn something new, to figure it out. There are a few of those OCD types who just want to do it, and more power to them. But they are the 1%. I think 99% of us, we have such busy schedules and so much on our plate. If we can just turn a key and make it work and be guided by a professional team like yourselves, then it happens, right? I'll give you a perfect example, right? Our very first product at Certainty Management was a consulting product. It's a service where we come in and analyze clients' imaging contracts or their printer and copier contracts. It's about as exciting as watching paint dry, which is probably the same in your business, right? But it's a multi-billion-dollar arena with no checks or balances. It's unregulated, and most customers are getting taken to the cleaners. What's interesting about that industry is that most customers know that they don't know, but they sense that they're paying too much, right? They sense that they think there's got to be a way to get this price down and to get a better contract and get better terms, but they don't know where to start. And so my friend Mark Barrick started a company after 30 years in the industry. He switched sides and said, I'm going to help advocate for clients, sit on their side of the desk, and give them an industry insider who walks them through that process. And now we save customers millions of dollars. We've seen over $250 million in contracts influenced just by becoming that expert, that go-to insider to take their hand and walk them through the process. And it's worked, right? So it's just,
you nailed it.
I thought of that as it's an interesting parallel, but it's different industry, obviously, but very similar role.
That speaks to certainty, right?
100%.
If you want certainty, either you become the expert or you have friends who are experts. Get certainty in your digital life, right? That's our mission. And people don't have certainty. In fact, we call it the ostrich effect. When you bury your head in the sand and you hope nothing happens to you and you just want to ignore everything around you. Too many people are doing that with their digital lives. They're playing the ostrich and burying their heads in the sand. What happens is people either become complacent, like, it's not going to happen to me. Or they know that it's going to happen or it has happened and they give up. It's like, too much. I can't handle it. I'm done. Tap out. I'm out. Right? You get both effects. You get that whole complacency thing, or you get I'm giving up. But that's not certainty. Neither one of those approaches gives you certainty in your life. And so you really can't do that. If you realize there's a threat and everybody needs to have some experts watching your back on the digital frontier, well, go find those experts and have them go to work for you and give you that certainty in your life. And I'll tell you, Patrick, it's no more important. And we've talked about a couple of things, your privacy and your money, but we need to spend some time on the family and kids, because the certainty around that is vitally important. You could lose all your money and still have your kids and love your kids. But you've heard of child trafficking. You've heard of all of the nasty things that kids are encountering online and in the physical world. It's really scary, and it's getting worse. Parents need to be aware of that. And I'd like to spend a couple of minutes, if you wouldn't mind, raising the alarm bells on this and talking about that.
Please do. Let's get back into the other areas. I think this is the most important one.
Yeah, family safety is a massive issue for folks. And I'm talking about kids when you first decide to start giving them an electronic device. So that might be 2 years old for some people. But really, when they become self-thinking around that 8 years old mark, if you have protected them against all these things before 8 years old, then they haven't already had their minds bent and changed to the advertiser's way of thinking, or the gamer's way of thinking, the YouTuber's way of thinking. But if you give your child an electronic device too early, they literally will have their view of the world and their belief structure changed by what they're viewing. So you have to be really cautious from birth through about an 8-year-old mark. And from 8 to 12 is a whole other band and age range that you got to worry about. And then from 12 to 18, and really young adults don't fully form their brains, and are ready to think with wisdom until they're in their mid-20s. It's what we understand. So you've got this time period as parents where you have a responsibility to raise your child with the proper cyber hygiene and the proper habits and safety and whatever to protect them. You want to be the one raising your child, not the world, not the internet. And I'm talking about more than just cybersecurity and protection. I'm talking about mental health issues and what they believe about themselves and other things like that. So there are a lot of risks, and I'll address a couple of them if you'll give me just a minute to do that, Patrick.
Please. Yeah.
Cyberbullying. It's a big problem. 6 in 10 teens report that they've been harassed online or bullied online. 6 in 10. So if you have kids, chances are your kid's been bullied or harassed online. But only 1 in 10 kids tells their parent that it's happening. So parents largely are unaware of the problems. If they don't have a plan in place and they're not actually having these conversations with their kids, they don't know what's happening. And the kids are embarrassed, ashamed, angry, and they don't tell their parents. You will notice warning signs, and I can give you a laundry list of the warning signs, but I won't belabor that point too much. But bullying is an issue, and it's getting worse. Kids are becoming very callous, short, and mean. Not all, but who your friends are of your kids matters. Make sure that you know who those friends are. Make sure you know who their parents are. You got to know where they come from and what their background is at this point, because you have to understand that when your friend makes a friend, that friend has friends, and that friend has friends, and it all becomes part of your child's world. And so who your friends are matters, who your kids' friends are matters. And this leads you to that second point about not just bullying, but actual predators. These are child predators. These are teen predators. These are women predators. And it's sexual assault, rape, child trafficking. And here's the statistic that blew my mind when I found this a couple of years ago, and it's still true today. 82% of sex crimes, rapes, assaults, 82% originated with a connection on social media.
Wow. That's
that
crazy.
Should scare everybody. The kids are being tracked. They know the predator knows what school they go to. They know what their likes and dislikes are. Predators are everywhere. There's 500,000 predators estimated by the FBI. 500,000 child predators on the internet every day looking for their next victim. 500,000 predators every day looking for their next victim. 1 in 5 kids, this is another startling statistic. It's a wake-up call. 1 in 5 kids today have been sexually solicited online already.
Wow.
1 in 5.
That's frightening, James.
It is. These are real numbers. The American Medical Association talks about it. The CDC talks about it. The American Psychiatric Association talks about it. The government, the FBI, and they all talk about this now. And these are the real statistics. So, what do you do about that? Well, there's a bunch of threat vectors that you have to know about. Where are these attacks going to come from? Where will these bullies or these predators find my kid, take advantage of, groom them, build trust with them, and then eventually try to meet up with them at the mall? How does this happen? And so it really starts with things like video games, chats in video games. It starts on TikTok. It starts in group chats. Snapchat is a huge platform for this. If you look at what kids use every day on their phones, and they're always like here, their head down, not up, their head down, and they're always doing this. And this feed that's coming into their face all day long is rife with these types of people. And if the kids don't know who they're talking to, and they generally don't, when you're gaming, you don't know who you're gaming with. And then sometimes it's a 40-year-old greasy dude sitting in his mom's basement pretending to be an 11-year-old girl playing a game on Minecraft with your daughter. Guess what? That is the norm now. And you need to have the parental control mechanisms. You need to understand how to take your Xbox, your PlayStation, the PC games, Minecraft, Fortnite, Roblox, you name it. They all have ways of protecting. Some are good, some are not good, but we're the experts on this. We know how to tell a parent what to do and how to monitor a chat on a game so that you're alerted to creepy stuff that's going on there. The same thing applies to all the social media platforms. There's some really bad ones. We personally recommend you uninstall Snapchat and don't allow it back on your child's phone. That's a really bad place. Any of those dating apps, when they become teenagers, do not let your kids get on any of those dating apps. Period. End of story. Predators, that is their playground. I'm just giving you a few tips, but as a parent, Here's my top recommendation. Get an online family safety plan put together for your family. If you don't know how to build one, we would build one for you and create it and give it to you. You need to know for your family's unique needs how to protect your kids. And there's a plan that comes along with that. And included in that is knowing, the signs, being able to have crucial conversations with your kids, knowing how to talk to kids about it, how to do check-ins with your kids. There's a plan that you should have in motion here now, today. And then there's tools. So there's a plan, and then there's tools. And then you need the right tools. So from monitoring to parental controls to limiting, time on their devices, location tracking and content restrictions. We had a customer call up and say, my teenage son is watching TV in the basement family room in the middle of the night, and we don't know how to control the content that's on there. We think he's probably watching things he shouldn't watch. Every parent should be concerned about pornography and the kids being exposed to it, because it comes in Minecraft video game stuff. It comes everywhere. It's sickening, but the bad guys are winning on this front, and children are having major mental health issues because of it. They are manipulated. They are given misinformation. And what happens, Patrick, is it creates a false reality for a child. And I'm talking about child from young, all the way through their 18 to 24 years old. A false reality of what is real is created in their mind, and they don't even know it's a false reality. And so they develop self-belief structures. Like they start doubting whether they're a good person, or am I pretty enough? Am I, athletic enough? Or am I this, or am I that? These kids develop these mind structures that are wrong. And if parents don't have a game plan and they don't have the tools in hand, you're setting your kid up for failure. And the suicide rates are sickening. It's a 62% increase in suicide rates for teens since 2007. 62% increase. What happened around 2007? Oh, yeah, iPhones. Cell phones. Think of I'm not drawing any direct correlations, but we're in the digital age. And if you look at where people are spending their time, now you can start to understand why I'm so passionate about empowering parents to know what to do to be good parents and protect their kids.
Yeah, you don't sound passionate at all, James. I got to tell you, I'm joking. You said one thing. We're almost to the end of the show here, but you said an important word just a couple of minutes ago when you said we create a unique. There's obviously tools and education and stuff that applies to every family. Each family is unique, right? And I love that about your plan. Your program is it's a combination of the education and the tools and the coaching and the support, but it is customized to that family, right?
Absolutely.
This family is going to be different than that family and so
Absolutely.
forth. So I love that. We are up against the end of the show, but if you'd like to learn more about James, his company, Invisis, their product, their banner product, I Defend, let the audience know, if you would, James, how to get a hold of you.
Absolutely. The best way to learn about what we do and what our mission is and our crusade to protect families, kids, our money, our privacy, the website is idefendhome.com. idefendhome.com. That's where you'll learn all about the program. And, we've arranged a special promotion for your listeners and viewers. The promo code is Certainty. If you enter that in, then thanks to Patrick, you're going to save an automatic 30 to 50% off our services. So you can have that fully customized plan to your family's unique needs, all the tools, all the monitoring, 100% support from our US-based call center, literal concierge service type stuff that you can't get anywhere else. And you can save 30 to 50% because Patrick. So I invite you to go look at it, learn about it, and then all of our contact information is there. There's free consultations that you can schedule with us. We're literally here to serve and support. And at the end of the day, we want to protect people. We know that the risks are going to get worse, and we are your ally. We are your team of experts that you can count on to take care of this, so you don't have to worry about it. Give yourself some peace of mind. Give yourself some certainty in your life in this area.
Well, I love the fact that it's affordable. When I first learned about everything you cover and everything you replace, the hundreds of dollars a month, and it would be worth that to protect our family, our finances, our identity. But the price is actually surprisingly affordable. Encourage you to go.
Literally, it's about the price of a dinner out with you and your spouse per month.
It's amazing.
That's pretty amazing.
We're grateful to have you.
Thank you.
It can be had. Professionals like James can help, and visits can help. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Come for my monologue. Find out what I is for. You'll find out if you show up. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Finding Certainty. We hope you've gained some more insight into how to create more certainty in your own business or nonprofit. Join us next week for another taste of the Certainty Experience. Until then, we wish you greater certainty in all that you do.